Good morning, everyone. Appreciate the opportunity to start off as the first presentation of the new year. As you all know, I am Chris Giotis, and I am a corporate attorney at Martin LLP, a law firm here in Stanford. I admittedly do not have pictures of very fashionable attire to show you like Anne does, or Bernal's expertly manicured landscaping, but I have put together a few slides just with some of the key points to help everyone follow along in the discussion. So to start this off, a little bit of background. I'm a lifelong resident of Stanford. Grew up here with my family, my parents, my brother, and my sister, and moved back here after school. I did my undergraduate at George Washington University in DC and came back up to Connecticut for law school. I went to Quinnipiac. I am licensed to practice law in Connecticut and New York, but as we'll discuss in a few minutes on one of the other slides, or later on this slide, we actually do have an ability to practice really around the country. So I'm not limited to Connecticut and New York, but that is a big piece of our practice. Just out of law school, I worked at another firm in Stanford for about 6.5 years, doing much of the same type of work I did now. And then I moved to Martin LLP in August of 2018. So I've been there for about 2.5 years. Now, Martin LLP is a Stanford-based law firm. We have one office here in Stanford. We are 12 corporate attorneys plus support staff. So we solely focus on corporate law, business law. We don't do criminal, family, intellectual property, bankruptcy, trust and estates, or many of those other things that you hear about. Really part of what our business model is that we focus on what we think we do well, and we don't try to do anything else besides that. As I mentioned, we have flexibility in terms of where we can operate as attorneys in this type of corporate law work that I do. This is a flexibility that a lot of other attorneys don't have. Attorneys that have to go to court, are generally only working where they're licensed, but the rules are a little bit different for people in my field. So we have a local practice, work with a lot of businesses that are in Fairfield County and Westchester County. We're definitely a regional practice as well, with a lot of New York City-based clients. And then we also have a national aspect of our practice. We do a lot of work with California businesses in particular, Texas and Florida. But again, we have flexibility to work just about anywhere. There's certainly some limitations on what we can do outside of Connecticut and New York, but they rarely come up. So from a marketing perspective and a relationship perspective, we can, open to have a conversation with any business owner anywhere around the country. In terms of our clientele, it really runs the gamut. We do a lot of work primarily for what we call middle market businesses. And middle market is not well defined. It kind of just is what you think about as being the middle of the market. We do some work for some larger companies as well, some publicly traded firms on a more limited basis. And we also do work for small businesses. Most of our startup work tends to be focused on well-financed startup entities, not too much more like local shop type new startups, but there's always flexibility in those arrangements. Again, it's one of those things where we always like to get on a call with someone. Usually there's some guidance, some help we can provide. And if we can't for whatever reason, usually there's a referral that we can send them to someone who may be able to help them. Moving on to practice areas. So as some of you that I've met in one-on-ones and who know me from my work know that really what I do falls into 3 buckets. The first bucket is mergers and acquisitions. And this is really the business of buying and selling companies. Sometimes these are owner-operated companies, entrepreneurs like many business owners in this group. Sometimes these are financial industry firms like private equity. But we work both to help people buy and sell companies. It's probably the biggest part of my business in particular, as well as my firm's business, probably over 50% of the time. There's another aspect to M&A, which we call exit planning. It's something I've mentioned in my commercials before. This is the idea of well in advance figuring out how you want to sell your business, when you want to do it, and making sure when you as a business owner are ready to sell, your business is actually ready to be sold. That's something that we do with a lot of our clients, and there's a lot of other people involved as well. You've heard from Rick Jackson about how he gets involved in this work. Michael Amania, trust and estates, succession planning is a piece of it. So that's one of the things we do with a larger team of professional advisors for our clients. The second bucket of what we do is what we call financing. And this comes in a million different forms, but it generally falls in one of two categories. One is debt finance practice. This is your lines of credit, your promissory notes, your term loans. Again, we do both bank side, representing banks who are lending money out into the market, as well as business owners who are taking in this type of financing. The second really broader category of financing is what we call equity financing. And usually this boils down to, you think about taking in investors. The idea of not taking out a debt, a loan, but actually selling a piece of your business, getting either some funding to help you grow. Maybe you want to cash out a piece of your business. So those type of investor transactions is, again, a big piece of the financing part. The third category is what we call outside general counsel, and this is kind of a little bit of everything. Starting a business, working on governance documents. A lot of you are LLC owners. You have an operating agreement. That's one of the core governance documents we'd work with. Customer and vendor contracts, employment matters, things like NDAs, offer letters, all those types of documents. So that's a big piece of outside general counsel. And then it's a little bit of just everything else. Helping business owners work through everyday issues, being an issue spotter, trying to help them figure out where they need to be focusing their legal efforts. Maybe they have intellectual property issues and we need to bring in an expert there. Or maybe they are having data privacy and cybersecurity issues. Your corporate attorney, your business attorney you use is not an expert in all of these areas by any means at all. But what we are trained to do is try to identify risks, identify things that need more attention. And then if we can't do it ourselves, we bring in someone from our network, another professional, to help get the job done. Very much like SBN, we don't get referral fees between attorneys for sending each other work back and forth. It's about building a network of quality professionals that you trust and you want to do business with. So being as a smaller firm, I know some people may not think of 12 attorneys as too small, but generally speaking, we are considered a small firm. And part of what we have to do is we leverage our network, just like everybody else does in this group. So that's a big piece of our business. 8 of the 11 attorneys I work with are all focused on these 3 areas. I do have a couple other specialist attorneys at my firm, one that does executive compensation, which is not really relevant to anything on this call, one that does litigation, again, purely focused on business disputes, but we do have some other practice areas that are related to these business services for what we do provide. One of the things I wanted to note, which is not a revenue generating area, but it's what our firm does to really try to give back. We do have a pro bono practice. This is where we try to get out and support our community and support the organizations that support our community. This is no-cost legal services, usually to traditional nonprofits, charitable organizations. Right now, I'm involved in a number of them. You may have heard of some of these. They're mostly local. Building One Community, Family Reentry, My Team Triumph, and Community Capital, all wonderful organizations. We also do a little bit of what we call low bono work, which is your not traditional charitable work, but it was done for community organizations. So just wanted everyone to be aware that we don't do this as a revenue generating source, but we do it as part of a way that we give back to the community. So not our typical clientele, but again, when people need help in this area, we're always happy to take a call. And with my last minute or so, I just wanted to mention a couple other things. One is how we operate as a business. We recognize that it's not always clear to business owners of whether they need an attorney, and if they do, what type of attorney they need and what exactly they need that attorney to do for them. And one of the only ways to get answers to that question is to actually speak to an attorney. We always try to be available as a resource to business owners, to get on the phone, to help them work through questions, to give them directions on what they need to do or they maybe don't need to do. It's something we do every day. It's good for our business. It helps us build relationships, even when it doesn't lead to immediate work or revenue generation of any kind. But it's an important thing that we do. And as some people in this group know, because we've talked before, always available for a phone call, get on the phone, help issue spot, give someone some good direction. And the last thing I'll say is with the new year, I am redoubling down on some of my marketing efforts, including through SBN. I'm updating my contact list, and I am going to be adding you, my friends at SBN, to that list. My firm doesn't send a lot of emails. The ones that do come out usually have links to blog articles that we've done and good advice for business owners in your situation. But we also use constant contact. There's an unsubscribe button, so no offense taken if anyone takes themselves off the list. So that is about my time. And I don't know if we have time for any questions, but we can also deal with them offline. But thank you for all listening to me for 10 minutes and giving me an opportunity to tell you a little bit more about my business.